Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University. In this video, let's explore some technology options that are available for the disabled provided through Windows 10. As a teacher, you're going to encounter students with many types of disabilities. For example, you're going to encounter students with visual issues or perceptual problems, students with hearing impairments, with cognitive impairments, students with physical disabilities or poor motor skills. In addition, teachers will encounter some students who, maybe due to a fall or a sports injury, they'll have a temporary disability, which will give them issues and problems when they're trying to use devices such as computers. Also, teachers of students in the early childhood years will find that those young students have certain issues when they're just naturally occurring when they're trying to use a computer. In this video, let's explore the Windows 10 options to give you an overview of what's available to assist you as a teacher when you're helping your students with different disabilities in your classroom. One quick option is to resize the screen by holding the control key on the keyboard and spinning the wheel on the mouse. This will allow you to very quickly zoom the display to make it larger or smaller, and without having to go into look for any tools within software or apps, or without having to adjust any settings in the device. To help adjust a Windows PC to help students with disabilities, it all starts at the Ease of Access Center. Windows provides many ways to find and locate parts of the Ease of Access Center. One way is to open the control panel in Windows, and then you'll find a link to the Ease of Access Center. You will find that the Ease of Access Center provides a plethora of different tools and adjustments and settings to help students with different disabilities and differing abilities. One of the easiest ways to work with this and to quickly deal with this is to get recommendations by Windows as to what will help that particular user. All you have to do is answer a series of questions, and then a series of possible accommodations will be provided by Windows. Alternatively, if you have familiarity with the Ease of Access Center, or if you would like to go in and explore different individual adjustments that you can make, you'll find that there are a number of different categories and different options that are available. For example, here we can see that there are visual options, there are hearing options, and there are options that deal with how the user deals with and interacts with the computer. Let's start exploring and get an overview of many of these options. Windows 11 offers all of the same accessibility features as modeled in Windows 10, plus a few really exciting new features. One thing that is different is the way that you access the accessibility area. You have to open up the accessibility app. Here are some of the exciting new features available in Windows 11. The first is the ability for Windows to generate live captions automatically, meaning that any audio that you hear on your screen will immediately turn into closed captioning. Voice typing, which is the ability of the machine to convert your speech into text. Speech recognition. It allows you to perform actions on your computer just by using spoken commands. And finally, another exciting feature is eye control, which allows a disabled user to control the computer just by using an eye tracking device. Let's begin our tour by considering how we can optimize the visual settings on a computer. In other words, let's make the computer easier to see. There are several options that are provided by Windows 10. High contrast makes fonts larger and it turns off distracting colors. The narrator can read to someone who is severely visually impaired or a blind person. Audio description describes what's happening on the screen. So if someone is severely visually impaired, how great is it that these tools will allow them to participate and engage in and get a feel for what's happening on the screen, information that they would otherwise miss. For someone who is not blind but has difficulty reading some of the content on the screen, which by the way can be any of us depending on the resolution settings of the computer screen. Sometimes it's difficult for anyone to read these things. The magnifier tool works like a magnifying glass, and it allows the user to enlarge the screen. Other visual settings include allowing you to adjust the thickness of the blinking cursor. So for students who would have any issues visually and trying to determine where the cursor is on the screen, this will enable you to make that larger and easier to locate. Also, you can turn off different distracting elements. So for example, some students with specific diagnosis having extra animations going on, for example in PowerPoint and tools like that, that will actually take away their attention and their focus from the content being delivered. You can have the computer locate unnecessary animations and just turn them off. Also, you can remove background images. In class, we looked at UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and we said that background images can make it difficult for some users with certain visual issues to be able to read the content over the top of that image. Here, you can have Windows automatically try to remove those background images. In addition to adjusting the computer for visual issues, you can also optimize a computer for the hearing impaired. You can provide sound alternatives. One sound alternative is the sound sentry. The sound sentry, when a sound is being played on a computer and they would not hear it and not be aware of anything going on, will provide a visual message that's basically an alert or a warning that says, hey, there's a sound that's happening here, so you'd be aware of it. Another option is closed captioning, and also known as text captions for spoken dialogue. Closed captioning allows a user with some hearing deficiency to be able to read what the sounds are saying. You can also make the mouse easier for students to use. One option is to change the mouse pointer. So this would resolve a visual issue for students with different types of visual acuity issues. This would also be ideal for very young students who have no visual issues, just that they're having difficulty locating the mouse and the pointer. And keep in mind also that young students will have difficulty when they're moving the mouse and looking for the mouse at the same time on the screen. So changing the mouse pointer to something that is larger or a different color, something that provides contrast against the background of the computer screen, would really help those young students. Another setting is mouse keys. So mouse keys allows a user who would have physical disability, someone who would have trouble actually gripping and moving the mouse and pressing either the right or left mouse buttons while they're moving the mouse. You could skip the mouse entirely and instead have keys on the keyboard, specifically the up, the down, the left and right arrow keys, and the middle key, the 5 key on the numeric keypad, could serve as the left click. So again, this is ideal for someone who has difficulty actually gripping and moving the mouse. One area that many users with physical disabilities will have difficulty with is using the keyboard, because the keyboard requires 2 hands to really be fully functioning to efficiently use. So the Ease of Access Center allows you to make the keyboard easier to use. So in addition to mouse keys, which is duplicated here in this area, you also have sticky keys. Now, sticky keys allows a user to select key combinations. So think about the key combinations that we use, like Control-C to copy, Control-I to turn on italics. If your hands are not functioning up to optimum performance, you're going to have a lot of difficulty in using those key combinations. So what sticky keys will allow you to do is, when the user presses the control key, then the user can release the control key. It will be as if it's stuck down, and it will not be released until the next key is pressed. So instead of having to say Control-C, you could turn on sticky keys and simply press the control key and then press the C key, and that way you don't have to use 2 hands or 1 hand with great efficiency. Toggle keys is another option. Toggle key will play an alert, so it'll be an audio sound when any of the toggle keys is pressed. So this would be ideal for users who may not be aware that they have accidentally pressed one of these keys. And toggle keys include the caps lock, the num lock, the scroll lock, and keys of that nature. Another option is filter keys. Filter keys is very usable and helpful to students who will press down a key. And by the way, young students without disabilities may do this by accident as well as users with a physical disability. If they were to press, let's say, the C key and kind of keep it down for several seconds, they might get 200 letter C's across the screen. Filter keys will detect this and will say, okay, letter C is pressed, you only get 1 letter C, and it will not keep registering until the key is released and pressed a second time. The final option that we will consider in the Ease of Access Center is speech recognition. Speech recognition is a wonderful tool because it allows someone to type and to interface with the computer without having to use the keyboard or the mouse. Speech recognition will allow you to basically speak in all of your text, and it will recognize words like comma, and it will recognize a period, and it will also recognize terms like new paragraph and new line. How great is it that users who will not be able to type otherwise will not have to type at all, but can just speak in how they want to interact with that computer and input information into it. In order to use speech recognition, realize ideally it's going to take a little bit of time to set it up, because you have to set up your microphone. You also have to train it in so it starts detecting the way you say certain common words. Without doing this, and if you try to bypass that setup process, realize it's going to be very frustrating for the user, because they'll start using some common words like the, and it may just repeatedly, consistently put other words in place of that word. So if you're going to use this, do take the time to set it up well. But what a wonderful tool this is, speech recognition. One last thought as we round out our tour of the Ease of Access Center. For early childhood educators, what kinds of difficulties do young children typically encounter when using a computer? Typically, it's in two different areas. Number one, visually seeing things on the screen. And number two, using the mouse and trying to coordinate seeing the mouse pointer on the screen with using and moving the mouse. So which accessibility options could potentially help these young PC users? Well, depending on their situation and what you're doing in terms of what the app or what the software requires the user to do, you could change the pointer to make it more visually easy to see for the young user. You could change the thickness of the blinking cursor, which will allow the child to visually spot the cursor on the screen with much more ease. You could change the visual settings to enlarge the display that appears on the screen. Depending on what the software requires, if a student needs to press keys like Control and C or Control F6, turn on sticky keys to allow them to not have to use their hands in advanced ways like that. And finally, depending on how young the child is and the equipment that they're using, maybe the mouse is very large for them. Maybe they can't really get a good grip on it and use it appropriately. In those situations, you could potentially turn on mouse keys, and instead of using the mouse at all, the student could simply use arrow keys to move around on the screen. I hope you have enjoyed our brief tour of the accessibility features available in Windows 10 and Windows 11. As you can see, Windows offers a plethora of different options to help students with disabilities, students with temporary disabilities, and also young students who have issues of seeing the screen and coordinating the mouse, which is just a natural part of growing up. If you use these features, you will feel like an angel as you ease the anxiety of students as you help them use their computers more effectively and easier. Thanks for watching.